talent wise, yes, I think that Rodrygo, in terms of talent, is as talented as Vini. Honestly, like I think when you're talking about like raw talent, like yes, I think that Rodrygo is as talented as Vini. Yo, you guys, what is good, man? Welcome back to Real United Talk, where we talk about all matters Real Madrid and Man United. This is going to be a real talk episode, and Rodrygo has been linked with a move away from Real Madrid and to Manchester City. Oh my god. Why did he have to be my ops? Like, why did he have to be the uppiest of ops? Like, to be fair, like, there's no place, I don't think there's a lot of places that Rodrigo can potentially go that I'll enjoy because I think that the teams like centered around him right now, or like the teams that he has been linked with in the past is like Man City, uh, Arsenal, uh, Bayern. Bayern is like the only one that like I don't mind if he goes, I don't really work with the Bundesliga, but I would like him to go to a team potentially that I watch so that because I like Rodrigo and I want to watch him and I don't really watch the Bundesliga. So if he goes to Bayern, I don't think I'll get to see a lot of Rodrigo except in the Champions League. But yeah, Rodrigo has been linked with a move away from Real Madrid, and this saga kind of like started when Jabi Alonso took charge. Obviously, we saw Rodrigo in the World Cup. He didn't, sorry, in the Club World Cup, and he didn't really get too much game time. It doesn't look as if like Jabi Alonso has him in his plans, and like this Rodrigo saga has kind of like intensified since then. Like it started even before Jabi Alonso took over. I think that there's always been like noise around Rodrigo potentially leaving Real Madrid, or like is Real Madrid really the right place for him? Are they really getting the best out of him? They're playing him out of position, all of that. Like he's getting like crowded with like a lot of stars and he can't really shine with Vinny and Mbappe and Bellingham and everybody. There's just always noise around Rodrigo. I feel like he's always in a place where he has to like prove himself. I feel like he's always put in a situation where he has to prove himself. And there's always players like that, like no matter how quality they are, they kind of just always put in a position of like they have to prove themselves. Because I think that Rodrigo is a brilliant player. I think he's a very quality player. Obviously, there's like misconceptions about Rodrigo's talent. I'll talk about that in a bit. But I do think that Rodrigo is a very talented player, and I think that he deserves like praise. I think that he deserves to be like in a team that actually like appreciates his talent. I think that Real Madrid appreciates his talents, but it doesn't look like right now Xabi Alonso has him in his plans. Like it just like there's just so many things going on. I feel like with this Club World Cup, especially when like we had, even when Mbappe was out, wasn't Rodrigo that was playing. He promoted Gonzalo Garcia, and yes, we needed a striker obviously, so that made sense. But at the same time, like Rodrigo barely getting game time, even when Mbappe is not there. Now that Mbappe is back, like where is the game time going to come from? If you know what I mean. So yeah, it doesn't look as if he's in the plans, but I think that Rodrigo deserves to actually be like in a team that actually like appreciates his talent that he actually like plays for. Obviously, I'm not saying that he should just go to a team and they should just like, oh, start, take everything that you want and everything. Like obviously his team needs to like prove himself, but I feel like he has been put in a position where he always has proved himself, whether it's on international level or Real Madrid or just in general. Like I think that everybody's always like, oh, can Rodrigo do this? Can Rodrigo do that? And like I said, like I think there's misconceptions about how good Rodrigo actually is, how talented he actually is, but also I do think that like he's also underrated in that aspect. But yeah, he has been linked with a move to Manchester City. So today I'm going to be talking about if I think that that's a good move, and potential other teams that might be a good move for him, and just like about Rodrigo's talent. But let's talk about Rodrigo first. Let's talk about the man himself first. So Rodrigo obviously has been in Real Madrid for quite some time. Him and Vinny joined around the same time, and they've come up together. The two Brazilian wingers, they've come up together. They've done that thing. They've had big moments in their careers. Rodrigo has had like a lot of big moments. You all remember like the Manchester City comeback. There's just so many things that Rodrigo has done for Real Madrid, and I really appreciate Rodrigo. I think that our relationship did not start too well. I think when Rodrigo and Vini, when they were first playing that was it 18-19, 19-20, I can't remember the season exactly, but like when they first started playing for Real Madrid, I can't lie, like the love wasn't there. But like it wasn't that I thought that they'll never be good. It was just like I just didn't think that like they should have been playing at that point. And like I think around that time we had just gone from like Ronaldo to Vinny and Rodrigo, if you get what I mean. Like it was just a lot going on at Real Madrid at that time, and honestly, like it was hard to back the players in general. Talk less about like with Vinny and Rodrigo, but like I'll back my team regardless of any situation that we're in. I'll back my players. Obviously, I want us to perform. I'm not going to hope on that downfall. I wanted us to perform, And Rodrygo has just kind of like come up through the Real Madrid ranks, with Vinny. And Rodrygo is a very talented player, like I said. Obviously, like the main thing about Rodrigo is that like he prefers the left wing, but he plays right wing at the moment because of Vinny, which makes sense and everything. And people think that like Rodrigo is being like fully nerfed when he plays the right wing. Like we're not fully utilizing him. Yes, I think that Rodrigo is better off the left wing. Like I've seen Rodrigo in games play off the left wing and actually like show his talent. I think that those games where like Vinny is not in the squad. I've seen a lot of games where like Vinny is not in the squad. Rodrigo plays and he plays left wing and he's actually like really good. And funny enough, yeah, I actually think that Rodrigo and Mbappe have a better partnership than Vini and Mbappe. I think that Rodrigo complements Mbappe more than Vini does. Obviously, like I'm not going to like say, oh, like let's sell Vini so that Mbappe can walk and everything. Like I feel like the whole Vini thing, like I'm seeing a lot of people talking about like, oh, like sell Vini, he's not that good. Even Real Madrid fans as well. And I'm just thinking like are you guys like mental? Like this guy got us two Champions Leagues and like it was a big part in those two Champions Leagues and he has been carrying our club for how long and then you guys just want to sell him just because we signed Mbappe who has never won the Champions League in his life. Like again, Mbappe is obviously the better player, but like I'm not going to sell Vini to make way for Mbappe. But I do think that Rodrigo and Mbappe complement each other better. Like I've seen games where like Vini was not in the squad and like it was Rodrigo and Mbappe, and I think that they complement each other better. And I think that's because like as much as like Rodrigo wants to um like put himself on the spotlight and everything, like I think that he's willing to like take that tiny step back to make sure that like the other players like kind of like shine. Like we've seen him do that, right? Like he has never been the biggest star in Real Madrid. He has always been a star, but not the biggest star. But yeah, Rodrigo right now is playing off the right wing. He has kind of like sacrificed himself for the best for the good of the team, and that's something that needs to be like highly appreciated and everything. And I think that off the left wing he's a lot better and everything. And yeah, there's just been always talk about like Rodrigo potentially leaving Real Madrid, maybe a team that will actually play him off the left wing, actually like fully invest in him being like the star of the team and everything. And people actually think there's all these things about like Rodrigo potentially being as talented as Vini, better than Vini, potentially. Like there's just all those talk about everything, and I'm going to address that situation right now. Do I think that Rodrigo is as good as Vini? Talent wise, yes, I think that Rodrigo, in terms of talent, is as talented as Vini. Honestly, like I think when you're talking about like raw talent, like yes, I think that Rodrigo is as talented as Vini. They're very different players. Like they have like different profiles. Like for Vini, Vini is a player that likes like run into space. He likes space. He likes running into space. Like whether it's dribbling, whether it's like just running in behind and everything. I think that Vini is a player that likes space. While Rodrigo is a player that likes like tight spaces. He has like that close control, backs himself to like we go out of like tight situations and everything. Vinny can do that the same way Rodrigo can like run into tight spaces and run into space and everything. But I think that like there are different profiles of players, and that's why like when they play that front two, they kind of like complement each other because like they're not both doing the exact same thing. They're kind of like doing different things. So that's why that 23-24 season, I think that they will really complement each other really well. And now throwing Bellingham into that makes a different profile of player as well. It was just like it was a good recipe to cook with, and that's why we won the Champions League that year. But yeah, there are different profiles of player, and there's like they're always going to be compared, both being Brazilian, both playing for Real Madrid, both being wingers, and both being very talented players, right? And you know, I do think that Rodrigo, in terms of raw talent, like is as talented as Vini, but at the same time, like there's so many talented players. Like you can see Thiago is as talented as Xavi. You can see Pogba is as talented as Zidane. Like you can see all these things. Like in terms of talent, like talent is one thing, but I think that what they actually do on the pitch is another. Like is a whole other thing. So talent wise, Rodrigo is as talented as Vini. Now, is he as good as Vini? No, Rodrigo is not as good as Vini. I don't think. Like, obviously, you can see maybe because Real Madrid has not fully invested in him, playing him in his wrong position and everything. But I don't think that Rodrigo is as good as Vini. Like, I feel like people have this misconception that like Rodrigo can carry a team necessarily. I don't think that Rodrigo can carry a team the way Vini can carry a team. I think that that comes down to like personality, and that also just comes back to like mentality. Like I don't think that Rodrigo has the mentality or the personality to like carry a team. Like because it's not just about like your talent level, it's also about like your mentality. Like you need to feel like you're that guy. Like I said, you can see that maybe Real Madrid has not given him that like room to make him feel like he's that guy. But let's not forget that Rodrygo and Vini literally started in the same playing field. Like it's not like Vini was 2 years into his development by the time Rodrygo came and he was like an 18-year-old or something like that. They both started at the same time. They both could have taken that mantle of like I'm the poster boy for Madrid. I'm that guy that is carrying Madrid and everything. They both could have done that, but it's kind of Vini that took over that light. It's kind of Vini that like came into his own and became that guy. I don't think that Rodrigo has that. I think that when you're talking about that, I think that you can compare Rodrigo to a player like Odegaard. I feel like for Vinny is a player that can take a game by the scruff of the neck, like carry a team like on his back and everything, take games by the scruff of the neck. And I think that Rodrigo is more of a player that like when things are going well for the team all around him, he's not going to dull. Like if the team is flowing, Rodrigo is flowing kind of thing. So like he kind of like flows. I'm not saying like he's like just an 11th man. Like he goes with the flow. So if the team is doing well, he's doing well. If the team is doing bad, he can carry like Rodrigo can have those moments like the Man City game. Like Rodrigo can have moments, but I'm talking about like carrying a team for 38 games in a season for a Champions League run. I don't think that Rodrigo can carry a team the way Vini can carry a team. Like Vini can carry a team. He can take games by the scruff of the neck. I don't think that Rodrigo has that ability or mentality. I think that Rodrigo is more like a go with the flow player. Like I said, if things are going well, he's going well kind of thing. So honestly, like people need to like calm down with that whole Vinny Rodrigo thing, because I think that people talk about Rodrigo like he's this player that can like change everything's fortunes. And as much as like he can, if like your team is already good, if you just need like a final piece to the puzzle to your team, I think that Rodrigo is that guy. But if you're like if you need a player to like actually like full on drag your team, like drag it. I don't think that Rodrigo is that guy, and I think that in terms of that, in that aspect, like Vinny is the man mentality. It's not just about ability; it is about mentality. It is about mentality. I think that Odegaard is a big example of that. Like I said, that whole Odegaard Bruno debate, like when you're talking about ability, like obviously I think that Bruno has more ability and everything, but Odegaard is not far off in terms of like ability. I think that Odegaard is a very talented player. Odegaard is a player that like I backed like since his Madrid days. I wanted him to stay at Madrid. Obviously, he left and everything, which I back as well because like I wanted him to get the best out of himself and everything. And he's doing well at us now. But there's this debate about Odegaard and Bruno, and I think that that debate has been settled now. I think that there's no debate anymore. Everybody knows that Bruno is the better player, and one of the things that make Bruno the better player is mentality. Because ability wise, like everybody has ability, everybody is talented. You can say that, like I said, like you can say that Pogba is as talented as Zidane. What did they do on the pitch? What did they do in their career? That is now what makes the better player. So Bruno is the better player, the same way Vini is the better player, and like all these players that like kind of like go with the flow, all these players that like fit into a team, like you need an 11th man in a good team, put them there. They are not bad players to have as well. It's nice to have those players that like, as much as like they're very talented, as much as like they can carry games, like those kind of players that will also willing to like take a step back and just allow like the best players to play kind of thing. So I think that Rodrigo is that kind of player where as much as like he's talented enough and he has the ability to like carry games, come back, like just drag a team in a game. I don't think that he's carrying a team. Like I don't think he's carrying a team for 38 games in a league season. I don't think he's carrying a team to a Champions League title by himself. Like I think he just gels with the team and just fits into the puzzle. I think that's the player that Rodrigo is. But yeah. So if you're talking about who's better between Rodrigo and Vinny, it is Vinny. It is Vinny. Honestly, it is Vinny. Everything that I've done in their career, everything that I've done in their lives is Vinny. Now you can now say that Rodrigo is underrated too, and Rodrigo is very underrated. I think that people don't really like see Rodrigo as one of them ones. Like I think that people do, based on like he plays on for Madrid, but people also don't just because like he has always kind of like had to take a step back. Like when it was Vinny and Benzema, now that it's Vinny and Mbappe, even when it was Vinny and Bellingham, he has always kind of like had to prove himself. He did the whole what's it called? Don't forget the R kind of thing. Like it was just the whole thing, but like it's just what he has had to do because like when you're always put in a position of having to prove yourself, you have to kind of like at some point, like, start talking. Like, you actually have to talk and be like, oh, don't forget about me. We all know about the celebration and everything. Like, just don't forget about him. But yeah, um, so yeah, based on everything I've said now, what teams do I now think that Rodrigo is best suited for? Like, because I don't think that, like I said, I don't think that Rodrigo should go to a team where like he has to carry. the team but like on his back and everything. So like there's multiple options, honestly. I think that Arsenal is a good option, is a decent option. Obviously, I don't want him to go to Arsenal, but like I think that Arsenal is a good option for him. You know, he was linked to Arsenal heavy and everything. Arsenal the left winger, and I think that Rodrygo has the ability to actually like be that final piece in Arsenal's puzzle. I think that he's a good player for that. And I think that Bayern as well. Bayern is also a good team for him to go to. You know, Bayern, well, I think now they've gotten with there, so obviously they're not looking at him anymore. But like, you know, at that time where like it was like between Rodrigo, I was hearing talks about Brady Bacola and everything. I think that Rodrigo would have been very good in Bayern, just being like that final piece to the puzzle. And now let's now talk about Manchester City. Manchester City, you know, at some point I would have said that maybe like City was not the right option, but not because like I don't think that he can do well at City, not because of anything. I think that was mainly because like of the amount of people at City. Like there's just so many players at City that like as much as like I think that Rodrigo is better than most of them, if not all of them. Like I mean like the wingers. Like I think that Rodrigo, if he goes to Manchester City, will be the best winger, but it's so easy to get lost when there's just so many players everywhere. Like you know, you want to have Savinho, you want to have Doku, you want to have Mamouche, you want to have Foden, you want to have everybody. It's just kind of easy to get lost. Like as much as like you know, competition is good as much as like, you know, you always have to keep your levels up and everything. Like, it's so easy to get lost. I think that that's something that happens at Chelsea. Like, no matter how talented the player is at Chelsea, like, it can be so easy to just get lost. Like, when you're talking about, like, oh, you have Noni Madueke, even if now he has gone to Arsenal, then you now signed Estoval, then you have Jamie Gittins, then you have Pedro Neto, then you have Cole Palmer. It's just like, it's so easy to get lost in that amount of players and everything. So I feel like for Man City, as much as like Man City was a good option for him, like, it would have been so easy for him to get lost. But right now, Man City looks as if they're willing to offload a few of the players and everything, which might be good and which now makes the option more enticing. Like, you know, right now I'm seeing talks about Grealish to Everton potentially. I'm seeing James Markety to is it Nottingham Forest. I'm seeing Savinho to Spurs. That I think that'll be a very good deal for Spurs, by the way. Savinho is a player I really love. I think that season at Girona was so big. Like I loved Savinho and like Savinho was so I knew that Pep would want him after that season. Like I knew it. I knew that Pep was going to want Savinho after the season. Like I dreaded it, but I knew it. And you know, it hasn't really worked out for him at City the way that he would have liked. Obviously, he has had his moments and everything, but it hasn't really worked out for him at City. Like I said, getting crowded in the amount of players that they have, as much as like he's a good player, as much as like I think that he was actually one of the better wingers last season. Like it's just so easy to just get like crowded. Like it's a crowded room, man. Like when there's so many players, when there's so much competition, when like your place is kind of like never set, it's just so easy to get crowded. I think that's supposed to be a very good move for him, but like that's not what this episode is about. So I feel like for Rodrigo, that's also something that can happen to him, especially because, like I said, he's not as imposing as Vinny. He's not as like he doesn't kind of have that mentality that Vinny has. So I think that it has been so easy for him to like go to a crowded team and just kind of like just be another player in that team and maybe not shine as much. But I think that with City offloading some of the players, especially Grealish and Savinho, I think that that would be very good for him because that opens up more room for him now. Because now if he goes to City, the options are Marmoush, Foden, Doku. Like those are, I think that I'll back Rodrigo to be a starter in that team. I think I'll back him to actually be like a full-time starter. Like I know Pep never has like full-time starters in his team, but I'll back Rodrigo in that to be like a full-time starter. And like I said, Rodrigo is more of like a final piece to the puzzle than you know just like a man that will carry a team. And I think that with City, they're looking for puzzle pieces. They're going through this whole like rebuild and everything right now, which is very good for them. And I actually think that like signing Rodrigo will actually be like perfect. As much as like City have been signing so many players, some people can say that that's star padding right now and everything. I actually think that Rodrigo can actually be a very good move for him because I think that Rodrigo can kind of like be the poster boy of this like rebuild. Like, you know, he can be like, oh yes, we signed Checky, oh yes, we signed Renders, oh yes, we signed Ainuri and everything, but we signed Rodrigo from Real Madrid, we signed this player from Real Madrid, and he can be like the poster boy of this whole rebuild. And I actually think that he can be that final piece to the puzzle in that attack because as much as like they have a lot of talented players in attack, I think that City is here and there. They don't really have like that stamped nailed on who is my left winger, who's my right winger. So I think that if Rodrigo goes to City, you can actually like nail on that. Like I know who my left winger is. Like at the end of the day, when we're going into a Champions League final, when we're going into like a big Premier League match, I know who I'm putting in left wing. And I think that Rodrigo can be that guy. I think that City will actually be a very good move for Rodrigo. I don't want Rodrygo to go to my rivals, but if he has to succeed somewhere, I think that it can be City. I think that Pep can actually do a lot with him. I think that he can make him into a scary player for Europe. Honestly, I don't know if Pep does that anymore with players. Like I don't know if he turns like I don't know if he converts a player to the final form. Like we saw him do with like Sterling. I don't know if he still does that with players. Like people say nowadays that like Pep kind of like regresses like all these like expressive players more than progresses them nowadays. Like makes them start passing back more, makes them like system players and everything. And I hear that like honestly like it's fact. Like if I'm one of the people that have said that like we've seen it with Foden, we're just seeing it like expressive players kind of like becoming like system players and everything. So there can be that fear in terms of Rodrigo. But at the same time, I don't think that Rodrigo, as much as like he expresses himself, I don't think like he's somebody that like if you tell him like we'll just pass back here and there kind of thing. I don't think that like it would take away too much from his game. I think that in general like Rodrigo's game is just like is kind of subtle. It's not as like imposing as like maybe a Neymar, a Vinny, all these like expressive players is not as like imposing. So I think that like if you see Rodrigo passing back here and there, if you see him being a little more safe with the ball, it's not that deep. Like and Rodrigo is someone that has like a lot in his bag. He's good at shooting, he's good at dribbling, and he's very good at heading the ball. Like Rodrigo is kind of underrated in terms of heading the ball. I think that him and Sterling are kind of like the same in that aspect in terms of like players that you don't really expect to be able to head the ball and even being good in like positioning themselves in the box. But I think that Rodrigo is actually very good at that. So he's someone that has like multiple things that he can bring to City. I think that with City, as much as like they have a lot of good players, they have like kind of one-dimensional players where like you kind of know what to expect from them. Like they don't really have too much in their bag. Like Doku can dribble now, but he's not good. He's not really that good at finishing. His output is not really the greatest. Savinho can dribble. He's decent at like shooting and everything. But like it's kind of like they just have a lot of players that like they're good at this one thing maybe, but like they're not really good at the next thing or this thing that they have to be good at. I think that with Rodrigo, he's good at so many things that like it can be that like final piece to the puzzle for City because you're going to get a player who is good at dribbling, creating chances, scoring goals, shooting, all of that, and also getting headers in the box. I think that we City right now, like if it's not Haaland that is heading the ball, like who else can head the ball? Who else can position themselves in the box to like head the ball and everything? Know a lot of players. So I think that with Rodrigo, you also be getting that. And I think that Rodrigo can actually bring a lot to City. I think that this will actually be a very good deal. Like honestly, all biases aside, all hate aside, I think that Rodrigo to Man City can actually be a very good deal for him, for Pep, for Man City, and for Real Madrid, because Real Madrid can get a lot of money for Rodrigo. Obviously, there's all this talk about like, Rodrigo doesn't really want to leave Real Madrid. And honestly, I hear it, man. Like he's like I don't like with Real Madrid right now is like it doesn't get bigger than Real Madrid. Like and I think that Rodrigo knows that. Like it never like if you leave Real Madrid, as much as it can go to a team and thrive, is only downhill from there in terms of like the team that you're at. Because like Real Madrid is the biggest team in the world. So I can understand like a player just like being at Real Madrid and just like, yeah, I never want to leave. But at the same time, like we do have to do what's best for your career. So like, if what's best for your career is to leave Real Madrid, then like you might have to leave. Like I love Rodrigo and I don't want to see him go, but at the same time I don't want to see him just sitting on the bench. Like if he has to sit on the bench for the rest of the season, a World Cup is coming and everything. He doesn't get to go to the World Cup because he has been sitting on the bench all season. Like I don't think that would be good for him. I wouldn't want that for Rodrigo. I love him and I want him to actually thrive in his career. As much as I would want that to be in Real Madrid, if he's not at Real Madrid, I'll be fine with it as long as he's thriving somewhere. So I think that a move to City will actually be a very good move for Rodrigo, honestly. And I think that he should actually like really think about it. And I think that, if it does happen, he should fully like take advantage of them. I don't think that he should sub and be like, I wanted to be at Madrid. I don't like it didn't work. Like I don't know why it didn't work out. I don't know why Real Madrid never like appreciated my talent or anything. Like you don't think about it like that. Think about it as a new opportunity and just fully take on the opportunity. Get yourself into that Brazil World Cup team. I think that he can, as much as Brazil have a lot of talented players. I think that Rodrigo can kind of like bounce some of these players into being like a starter in that team. So honestly, like get yourself into that Brazil team. That's one of the things that you should be looking at. Like look at this as an opportunity to get into that Brazil team. But yeah, I do think that a move to Manchester City is a potential good move for Rodrigo. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you think that Rodrigo should go to Man City? Do you also think that Rodrigo is a better player than Vinny? Do you think that Rodrigo can carry a team? how, like, what do you think about Rodrygo's talent? Just let me know in the comments what you think about Rodrygo and this potential move to City. But with that comes the end of this episode. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try and stay consistent, keep on pushing out episodes, and I just hope to see you guys again next time. Safe.